Somehow, I have a very deep connection with this church. Ever since my childhood, I can remember my mother taking me to Mahim Church on Wednesdays. I mean, that was the day that she used to go pretty much every week, as far as I can remember, for many, many years. And then I remember from her telling that my grandmother used to take her also. And they used to live about 2 kilometers from this church. So they had, a group of people who used to walk from their house to Mahim Church pretty much every Wednesday. So there is a strong history with this church. It is not as deep as some of our Orthodox churches. It is basically a church that started in the 16th century. So it's about 400 years old. But let me walk you through how, the church history and some interesting facts about the church. So Mahim Church was established in 1540 by the Portuguese, and it is known as St. Michael's Church. It is still known as St. Michael's Church, but there is a deep connection with St. Mary, and we will get to that. And there's an interesting history also behind it. It is part of the Catholic Diocese of Bombay, and it is one of the most visited churches. I shouldn't say one of the, it is the most visited church in Bombay. And it averages about 40,000 to 50,000 visitors each week. So that's about, you're talking about 7,000 people a day who walk through those church doors. And I remember, the heavy traffic, even during, the old days, the traffic used to be so much, the marble floors used to get, ground out. You put a straight piece of marble and, 1,000 people walk every day, the marble gets scratched out and it forms a nice dent. And I used to observe these little things even as a kid. So it's a very heavy traffic church. A lot of people come there. Mass is conducted every single day of the week. Okay, and most well-known mass is called the Novena, and it's held on Wednesdays. And I will give you some more detail on what a Novena is. The service is held in 4 different languages: English, Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, and Konkani. And Malayalam is, of course, absent for some reason, but I can remember a lot of the priests who used to come and go to the church were Malayalis from Kerala. So, they spoke other tongues, and, they used to conduct the whole service in that language. So why is the church called St. Michael's Church of Mahim? Although, most people know it as a St. Mary's Church, and people go there for, St. Mary's blessings. So to know how this happened, we will have to kind of jump into the history of the city of Bombay itself. And I had a really fantastic time actually digging into some of these facts, and I want to share that with you. So in the 1500s, what we know as Bombay today was a set of 7 different islands, and you can see the little map on the right side. And most of the original names of the 7 islands are still existing, and those are the suburbs in Bombay. So you have, Parel is a suburb, Worli, Mahim, and Salseti, or Salsit, was the mainland that is connected to the rest of Maharashtra. So there was a church that is located there, and even now it's called the St. Mary's Cathedral of Bandra. And then across the island, on the Mahim Island, there is a St. Michael's Church, which is what we are talking about today. So the 7 islands were, inhabited by original people of Maharashtra. I mean, there were fishermen, and then there were other communities that lived there. And there's interesting stories about those too. And we might think that St. Thomas was the only apostle, but once you start digging into it, you might come into some interesting facts, but I'll leave that for another time. But anyway, see, the 7 islands, the original islands, was basically changed its character once a marriage treaty was done in Europe. So basically the marriage was between Catherine of Braganza, who is a Portuguese princess, and King Charles of England. and they entered in an alliance. It is what they call a royal alliance. It is more for, the property sharing than actually a marriage. So, but as part of the dowry, some properties changed hands from the Portuguese to the British. So England basically got several properties, and they got Tangier in North Africa, the Seven Islands of Bombay. They also got some trading privileges and some other, things in East Indies, which were also a Portuguese stronghold. And then they also got 2 million Portuguese crowns, which is 400,000 in today's money. So that the entire city of Bombay pretty much was a dowry exchange between the Portuguese who existed in, Bombay before the British came into the scene. So once the British got hold of it, the crown, the royalty got hold of it, they ran into some friction. So the Portuguese, who were the current bosses in that area, and they were controlling the port of Bombay, so they did not want to share the revenue with the British, the royalty. So what King Charles, who was the king at that time in England, he decided that he doesn't want this headache anymore. So he rented out the Seven Islands to the East India Company. And of course, all of us know the history of the East India Company. And the East India Company paid King Charles 10 guineas, that's about $260 in today's money, for the Seven Islands. And I also got a low line of credit from the East India Company. So that was how basically the British took over from the Portuguese, the whole establishment of Bombay, right? And they pretty much started the British rule with Bombay as one of the key centers right after that point. So for the next 100 years, the Bombay Islands changed hands. St. Michael's Church, the Mahim Church, retained its Portuguese character, and it continued for another 100 years. So around 1700s, the Marathas, who were the local, the guardians of Maharashtra, they were in a power struggle with the Mughals. I mean, the last of the Mughals. I mean, the Mughal Empire, was past their peak, and they were kind of dwindling down. And then the Marathas thought, okay, let's get rid of these folks, and they had their final battles with them. So once they were kind of tapering off, they set their eyes on the Europeans, which is the British and the Portuguese. And they said, okay, let's now focus on these guys. So in 1739, there was an intense sea and land battle that was fought between the Marathas and the British, actually the East India Company, who got the island at that point. So in one such attack, the South Sea Island, or actually the mainland, they started the attack. And the present day, the Bandra Church, which I showed you earlier, was under an attack, an imminent attack. So the British company authorities talked to the priest and said, okay, you need to get out of there because, you're going to get attacked pretty soon. So in the night, the priest and a few others gathered all the important relics, and these were all the Mother Mary relics and everything that the church held at that point, and they fled. And they took a boat, and they went from Bandra to Mahim, and I got the map again there just to show how they went. So on the way out, they destroyed the existing church in Bandra to keep the location a secret from the Marathas. So once they got to Mahim, they sought refuge in the St. Michael's Church. And so that was the point when St. Michael's Church basically got, the relics of Mother Mary from the Bandra Church, and then it officially became, Mother Mary Church. Although in name it continued as St. Michael's Church. So what is the significance of Wednesday? So Wednesday masses, like I told, are conducted in several different languages. And the icon that you see on the right, so every time you walk into the church, there will be people who will be handing over this little pamphlets about the size of a credit card, and they'll give it to you as soon as you enter the church. And each of those, pamphlets have this picture, the exact same picture that you're seeing. So I kind of, wondered about this picture because as a child I never thought about this. But over time, recently I realized that is actually an Orthodox icon. It is not a traditional Catholic icon. And in fact, once I started looking up it, I realized it is actually a Greek Orthodox monastery in the island of Crete, which was taken. It was taken by the Romans. They took the icon and took it to Rome, and it was officially adopted by the Catholic Church. And recently, the Archbishop of Bombay, I think a few years back, he received an exact replica image that is made and sent by the Pope to Mahim Church. So they have now an exact replica, a hand-painted replica of the original. So it is believed that if you attend 9 consecutive services of what they call the novena, which is basically the word 9 in Latin, and it also is similar to the word now in Hindi or in Sanskrit and other languages. So Latin and Hindi, they share certain roots. So novena is 9. So if you attend 9 consecutive services on a Wednesday, you will have your wishes granted. So thousands of people, flock to the church. We have rich people, poor people, even from other faiths and religions. Now, if you go on any given Wednesday, you can almost be sure that almost 50% of the church are not even Christians. I mean, they are, pretty much from every faith. And I remember, one of my mom's friend who was a Muslim, she used to go occasionally with her to the novena also. So anyway, so that was a brief history of Mahim Church. It is a very church that's very close to my heart. And next time you visit Bombay, do go to the church. The atmosphere on Wednesdays is really, really something to be experienced. So thank you very much for listening. Take care.